Hello everyone. In this podcast, I wanted to cover the manual way of exporting out of Maya and bringing the Mudbox and then sending it back from Mudbox to Maya. So I'm going to do it on this character and the Yeti character because it really doesn't matter what character model it is. You're going to do the same process as you're starting off with. But before we get into that, I want to make sure that you have a couple of things set beforehand. So we go into your plugin manager, and your plugin manager, you need to have an OBJ turned on. Let's see. So the OBJ exporter. This one needs to be turned on, which is not on mine. That's actually surprising. And you also need the FBX plugin turned on, which is normally on by default, but sometimes it's off. Where are you? Oh, FBX Maya. So I'm going to put auto load on. That's fine. Okay, so now this can actually export it out. And the process is exporting this out as an OBJ and then bringing it back into Maya through an FBX. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate the geometry in the same way as before. I do actually have a duplicated head already. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay, so this is the original head on here. I could duplicate it like that. And I can call this anything I want. I'm going to call this Yeti Blend Geo. Like that. And now I'm going to export this out. I do need to unlock my channels first too. That probably actually wouldn't matter on here. Okay, so I'm going to say File, Export Selection. And I can go into the options right here. By default, it's in binary, which I can switch that to be anything I want. The OBJ should be at the bottom here. Most of the time I'm exporting R by OBJ. So this is fine. So Export Selection, it is by OBJ, and I'm just going to call this Yeti head. And that's pretty much all you have to do in Maya, which I know you've done something like that with the earlier classes, especially coming into ZBrush. Okay, so now I go in here and I'm going to say File. I'm going to open, and I'll see in there I got my Yeti head, and I can just open it. So this is the same way. And I got some things that popped up here, same thing. I know this geometry is fine, so I'm just going to say Keep All, and I got my geometry in here. Now I have a file that is already done on this, so I'm going to open that one up. That I already have a bunch of blend shapes on, so I call it Yeti Face. Okay, so now I have Yeti Face in here, and you'll notice when I left click on the geometry, I got all these blend shapes in here, and they're all hooked in. I got one that I didn't use, so these are all working like this, and so forth. Okay, so now I want to bring this back. Now there is something in here we had to set up too, is that by default it likes to flatten everything down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure we're changing this. We're going to go into Mudbox Preferences, and under FBX there's an option here that says Export Sculpt Layer Groups as Blend Shapes. This needs to be turned on. If it's not, it's going to flatten everything down to a single blend shape and only export that out. So I'm going to say okay, I'm good. I need to select my geometry like this. I'm going to say File, Export Selection, and now we're going to be doing an FBX. So I'm going to go back to my scenes in here, and I'm going to call this Yeti Yeti Blends. I don't like that because I have excited in there. So I call it Yeti. I call this Yeti head as well. Okay. So it's still head blend. This is actually not the same file in here. I'm going to delete this. I don't need this file anymore because I'm going to bring this in brand new. So I wasn't paying attention as it was going through. Let me do that again just so it actually exporting. Because you should see on the bottom, you should see it kind of go through each one. Yes. See, it went really fast on my computer. But I've seen it on other ones where it takes a long time. So it should go through. If it just goes through once and that's it, then it probably didn't go. Okay, so now we want to import them back in here. So I'm in Maya. I say File, and I'm going to say Import. And we can import that FBX. That's why we have the FBX format on there. And I believe we just called it Yeti Head. Now, I normally turn off use namespaces off because that puts a prefix on the bunch, so that's the only thing I really set on here. And it's going to put Yeti head in the front of all these names. So I'm going to say import like that. Oh, I actually didn't put it on all of them. That's good. So now I got this blend here, and it has all the blend shapes are in here. The question is, does this have a blend shape? It does, and I can turn it on like that, and it is working. So right now at this point, we're at the same stage as the other example when we exported it back from Mudbox to Maya. So this is guaranteed to work in case that connection. This will even work if you're in 2017 Mudbox going into 16 or vice versa, because the FBX format in OBA doesn't care on that. So if you do have that disconnect, this would work. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to message me.